Hello and a very good afternoon. I am Basundhara from Logistics Insider, and I welcome you all to yet another episode of Voice of Shippers, where we will be interviewing a very special guest. Before introducing our guest for today's segment, I take pleasure and pride in informing you all that Logistics Insider has bagged the Best Digital Logistics Magazine of 2020 award that was conferred upon by the prestigious World Logistics and Supply Chain Congress and Awards Forum, and I share our happiness with the readers and viewers who have made this feat possible. I would also like to inform you all that our December issue will be out today, so please go and grab your copy as well as subscribe to our digital products and pledge your support to one of the most credible voices in the logistics and supply chain domain. The year is finally coming to an end. As we step into December and enter the final leg of this grueling journey of 2020, we have already started acclimatizing ourselves with the new normal. Companies across the globe are transitioning from the phase of suffering to a phase of revival, switched from responsiveness to resilience, and are coming up with innovative strategies to tackle the hurdles on the way. However, embarking on an uncharted territory also involves unforeseen challenges. But with digitalization and innovation driving the carriage ahead, there will eventually be light at the end of the tunnel. In today's session, we would try to touch upon some of the most relevant issues and challenges that the new normal has unleashed upon us, and how to effectively address these challenges and gear up for the journey ahead. Speaking along these lines, it is my pleasure to welcome our guest for today's session, Mr. Balakrishnan Iyer sir, who is the Group Country Head, Procurement, South Asia at Bayer Group and event convener of Disha 2020, an IIMM initiative. As an established and progressive supply chain and strategy professional with more than 3 decades of experience, Mr. Iyer has a demonstrated history of working in the procurement and supply chain space. His expertise revolves around procurement, strategic sourcing, supplier management, global sourcing, and the entire spectrum of the logistics and supply chain. With an impressive education and career trajectory, he has an impressive industry experience in working for MNCs like Sandoz, Roman House, Searle, and Indian companies like Reliance, Raymond, and Balsara Hygiene Products. Sir is also the past national president of the Indian Institute of Materials Management and also the convener of Disha 2020, which is one of the largest supply chain and procurement events in India. As a revered personality, he also has a host of accolades and honors in the field of procurement and material management to his credit. We are really pleased to have you with us, sir.
Thank you.
So before we begin, I would like to inform our viewers that we'll also be taking questions from the comment section below. So please feel free to type in your questions for sir in your comment section. So sir, starting off with today's session, the COVID-19 pandemic has led to a paradigm shift in operations, thought process, and in general, the way companies function. So, do you feel that the focus of supply chains has shifted from responsiveness to resilience given the unprecedented circumstances that we are in?
Okay. Uh, am I audible?
So, you're perfectly audible.
Okay. So let me tell you, first of all, thank you for the good words on the introduction. And let me tell you, out of the 34 years that I have spent in the industry, 2020 was the worst year I have seen. While we were just settling into the new year, we started getting problems of sourcing material from China because around 15th of February, we heard that there are issues of some minor nature. And basically, this that's the first time we heard about the coronavirus uh, infecting people in a small province in China. Subsequent to that were the Chinese holidays, and then came news that the factories were not opening because there were no people to work in them. And as a result, we started getting messages from Chinese vendors saying that there would be a delay in supplies as there are issues with related to health in many provinces in China. And all workers who have gone to their villages for the Chinese New Year have not returned. And there are restrictions and so on and so forth. So across industry, we had problems. And across industries, companies had little time to address logistics disruptions, shortages of parts and materials. And what we saw is slowly the inventory we carried got depleted. And
Right.
we also saw that the production plan that we had forecasted, there was a huge change. And people, in fact, our sales colleagues started getting more requirements from the marketplace. And there was a sudden swing in demand. This required many of us in the industry to rewire our supply chain at short notice, keeping in mind the various restrictions of countdown and also ensuring that we comply to government policies designed to slow the spread of the virus.
Right.
Now, things are going a little better. And as companies embark on the journey to recovery, the supply chain leaders in the industry are very clearly telling us that they do not want to return to the status quo ante. They now want to transform their supply chain. So, what we are very clearly saying is there is a move towards resilience
Right.
rather than responsiveness to our stakeholders. Many of our industry seniors have also said that the crisis has revealed weaknesses in their supply chain and they are now working to address these issues. For example, many have encountered problems in their supply base. Many faced problems in production and distribution. There were
Right.
trucks on the road, but no drivers. There were material at the port, but no customs people to clear the cargo. No custom broker offices were open. So all this led to so much of problems for people like us in the procurement and supply chain function. And basically, supply chain leaders are now saying that basically they want to do something different. They want to take resilience and basically they want to take the level of resilience to a higher level in the supply chain function.
Right.
They intend to use a variety of mechanisms, including dual sourcing of raw materials, increasing their inventories of critical products, and also look at near shoring. See, all the while we were looking at China sourcing. Now we are all
Right.
looking at how we can develop the second source in India itself. Also, what we are saying is we are also looking at regionalizing our supply chains. I hope I could
Indeed,
give you an
sir.
answer to your question. Sorry, when you ask me a
Yes, yes.
question, my experience has been so much that I can't restrict myself to short answers. I hope you're okay.
No, sir. That is obviously a win-win situation for us because the more insights that a veteran like you provides, it only helps us move. It only helps us and the industry to move ahead with an informed decision. So, sir, you mentioned very pertinent issues, the vehicular logjam and all that we have witnessed in this year. Um, so, moving forward, we are talking about the new normal that we have ahead of us. And whatever you mentioned brings me to the next question, which is how, in terms of approach and performance amid such a grueling year, how are different organizations adapting to the new normal?
Okay. See, supply chain leaders see an urgent need to better have a better control over their supply chain technology, which will
Right,
likely be possible only with a skilled workforce trained to use digital tools at speed and scale. Most of the leaders want to increase the amount of digital supply chain talent within their organization through a combination of getting new talent from outside or in-house reskilling to be done. Just over half of basically the permanent changes that one would like to see is in planning process that would lead to the next normal. And what they are also saying is we would like to see greater centralization of planning activities, shorter planning cycles, and introducing advanced analytic techniques. And I'm really surprised to say this. People do not see budget as a constraint. They see today the expense of all this as an investment for the future. Yeah. And basically, to add something more out of it, something more would need to be done. One is developing a more agile mindset, have
Right.
a risk mitigation function, having more storage points closer to the customer. So all the things that we would say just in time and things like that, probably we would like to review and see how we could do things in a different way, because we have seen so much of issues that you had material ready in your factory, but due to the logistics constraints, you can't shift it or you can't ship it to your customer. So having
Right.
inventory closer to the customer is a solution that people are trying to explore in the new supply chain. Then I would say increased regionalization. So basically moving away from the China sourcing to looking at what India could offer. So what Prime Minister Modi says, Atmanirbharta. So trying to
Right.
see if we could have local sources close to you who can help. Yeah. And more so, I think what we have really felt the need is capability building. Capability building in your own facilities and in your supplier facilities. And basically, sustainability today is become a focus issue, because basically gone are the days when we could do things on a shortcut or a jugaad. We really need to work on things today which will make our business sustainable for few more years and also mitigate risk that a new pandemic would come up with.
Indeed, sir. Very beautifully explained. So you've highlighted a very important point on self-reliance and how we should move from from China's sourcing to a more self-reliant in India, like you've alluded to the Prime Minister's Atmanirbhar initiative. I would like to take your comments on if you feel that this year has sort of highlighted the need for self-reliance more than any other year in this decade. Do you feel that given the unprecedented circumstances, the need for self-reliance or a self-reliant India is sort of felt more strongly? The pandemic has put it, in sort
Very
of
much.
focused.
Very much.
And how do you think India is advancing along that path towards a more self-reliant nation?
See, it all depends on the industry. See,
Right.
basically, if you're working for a pharma industry, I could say that still we have a lot of areas to work upon. Basically, the
Right.
basic chemicals. We are still dependent on many of the intermediates for our APIs. We are dependent on basic chemicals. And basically, we are also dependent on many of the APIs that still are coming from China.
Right.
So
Right.
basically, we will need many more years to develop that sort of strategies going forward. And let us also agree on one thing, that China is still much ahead of India on various
True, sir.
things. So basically, the chemical industry that I am coming from, basically, we would need to make ourselves competitive with China sources, or
Right.
our Indian mentality of having everything cheap. Probably one will have to review that decision. Customers will have to pay a little extra money for what is produced in India, because after all, then we would build self-reliance for our own Indian companies, for we Indians in the future.
True, sir.
There are many cases today, even for if I take an automobile industry, many of the parts are coming from Thailand, from China, and other places. Why? They have done a yeoman lot to improve situation for their industry in terms of auto parts and ancillaries in India itself. The other industries are not that well developed and equipped, and we would take a little more time.
Indeed, sir. But you do believe
But
that
yes,
India is
I'm
on the
saying,
right track.
sorry, I'm only saying that definitely everybody has seriously thought about what President Modi has to say, and everybody is now thinking of going local to maximum extent possible.
Right, sir. Absolutely. And on that positive note, I would like to talk about the impact of the technological transformation that this industry has seen, which brings me to my next question for you. Technology has emerged as the holy grail given this year, given the voracious shift towards digitalization across the globe and, of course, across the industry. What are the technological transformations that you see in the sourcing and procurement space?
See, I see more of automation coming in, people investing in automation. ERP tools like SAP would be more, SAP, Oracle would be more adopted.
Right.
I would also see use of e-procurement tools like SAP Ariba or what is available from Maven Vista or basically others being used more in the industry. And
Right.
again, see, today in many companies there are SAP implemented, but they are not making full use of all the options that SAP provides. So, say basically more automation in terms like catalog building, use of PMD contracts, SAP guided buying tool, etc., would definitely see more usage in the future. Similarly, boosting the supply chains, end-to-end digital capabilities require a coordinated effort and view across nodes so that companies can connect the dots with the latest digital tools and capabilities. Autonomous planning solutions with machine learning capabilities can base their forecast on many more factors and learn the next norm much faster than the traditional approaches for building business continuity, preserving cash, and strengthening supply chain resilience. Use of exponential technologies for faster and cheaper computing power, use of sensors, networks, artificial intelligence, robots, 3D printing, blockchain will definitely see more use. And one would also very closely look at reinventing every business model that is being worked with today.
Indeed, sir. That is really heartening to know the kind of transformation that the pandemic has brought about. It sort of highlights how people, we can find opportunity behind every adversity, and I believe digitalization has sort of been at the forefront of that very idea. So, if anything, the pandemic has also underlined the value of relationships and interactions amid the uncertainty of our times. How has it given a new dimension to managing relationships with various stakeholders, be it your strategic partner or internal groups or even a truck driver? What are your thoughts on that?
See, I would touch upon all the stakeholders in the industry. So let
Right,
me talk about basically first the stakeholders. See, with the pandemic coming in, basically we have seen a situation where production had to be seriously looked at and basically changed. Production planning had to be changed to look at
right,
availability of material.
right,
Now, basically, so, and again, it was not only getting material from the vendor. For example, as I told you now, the vendor had material. but he couldn't ship the
Right.
material because there was no transportation available. So basically, we had to send our own trucks to their supplier factory to collect the material from their end. Basically, as a result of the government uh, lockdown, many of the industries were not allowed to operate. We had
True.
to help the company owners in basically working with government agencies to get them to open their locks and start working. We have never seen this sort of a working with your transporters, your suppliers, and the various agencies. Many a time, vendors would not have material to run production which was to be sent to you. You would use your supply chain, your sourcing organization to make material available for them so that they could continue converting the material into finished products. Many of the vendors, they were short of cash.
Right.
Companies like us, big companies like we have loaned money to them to ensure that basically they could invest money in the raw material and the other resources, and basically they could keep their operation running. So there have been various ways in which there has been a cross-functional, cross-stakeholder servicing done, activity done, so as to keep the machines running. I will tell you, basically, there were many cases. You talked about the transporters, the drivers. They are
Right.
the lowest in that rate. There were many companies earlier who would say, you please stand outside the gate. Whenever we are ready to accept your material, we will call you. Here, the case was they were welcoming the transport drivers, saying, please come. We will unload your material even at night, 12 o'clock. Many of the times in companies like ours, I'm sure there are many like us, there was nothing on the way to feed the drivers. When the vehicle was getting unloaded at the factory, we would tell the driver, go to our canteen, have the food. And Basundhara, you would be surprised if I tell you, we would give a pack of food to them so that when they go back, they can have and eat this on their way. Yeah. So this is the humanitarian approach that we have really seen. I think never have we seen this in the industry. I'll tell you my case. And I had a supplier who was supplying me uniforms. Now, in this case, we did not need much of uniforms. We couldn't give him business. How does he survive in this case? We told him, okay, you come to us, keep your factory on. We will ask you to provide us with PPEs. Yeah. We will
Right.
ask, we will buy the face mask that one would require from you. And basically, we will ensure that you have money to feed your laborers. In fact, there have been cases where basically we had a huge project going on in my company in one of the places. And basically, there was this lockdown, so we couldn't get the labor. And basically, if we would allow the labor to go to their native place, we were worried that we would not get the labor when we needed. So we have paid the vendor salaries for these people, even where they did not do a single rupee work for us in the company. I think this is how the relation has been amongst the various stakeholders in the business.
So that is
Is
indeed
there
very
anything I could say
commendable.
further? I think
I think
earlier we used to say an arm's length relation between the supplier and the company. Today, the situation that we have learned is we need him to continue with our business. So let's try and see how we could accept him, support him, and make him run his business so that in turn he supplies us what we want and we can run our business.
indeed, sir.
So
Like you
many of the
mentioned,
things I have told you, I'm sure when you ask seasoned professionals like me, they would also narrate similar stories.
true, true, absolutely, sir. So indeed, the year has been very harrowing, very grueling for a certain section, basically the truck drivers, the people who are associated with the labor and manual work. But it is examples like the one that you said about the efforts that your company has taken on a humanitarian note, the kind of extent that they've gone to ensure that the supply of bread keeps continuing at certain households. I think it is very exemplary, and then you've really set the benchmark for it. And I do hope that many more companies sort of emulate that into their own operations and their own approach as well.
And you know what? Basically, even during the when the lockdown was lifted,
Right,
basically we have ensured that we provide the labor with food grains free of cost, because many of these laborers were migrant laborers from other parts of the
right, right.
country, and without a ration card, they wouldn't get benefits that the government would want to give them. So, as a company, we have supported our vendors in supplying food grain packets to these employees so that they can survive till everything becomes stable.
So it is very inspiring, and to know that companies like yours are taking such amazing steps, such humanitarian steps. It really sets the bar really high. And of course, it's the silver lining that the pandemic has sort of set forth, that more and more companies are now imbibing. Thank you, sir, for sharing that with us, and I
Yeah,
hope many more companies take note of that. So I'll just take a quick question from the comment section below
sure.
for you. This is by Faisal Tabara. This question is, wouldn't increasing inventory of essential inventory cause an increase in containerized shipments? Okay. Shipping lines did very well due to air and cross-border land being affected so badly. Did you notice a move towards sea freight mode?
See,
It has been
basically, I
highlighted
don't
there.
agree with the gentleman when he says that shipping companies made money, because when ports were shut, where would the shipping companies call?
Right,
Okay.
right,
So many of the shipping companies, they did not come to the port of call, and they went away without shipping the container or basically taking it to other ports. Second is, basically many of the shipping companies, they gave us a waiver of detention for their containers for the COVID period, when we did not pick up the material because the port was closed. The customs officials were not there to clear the cargo. So I don't think, basically it was right to say that shipping companies made money. I think I wouldn't say the same. I think shipping companies were more cooperative, I would say. And
indeed.
basically also, yes, we have seen increase in basically air freight in many cases, I would say, because many of the ships were not calling because of the port closure. So we are at least for us in Bayer, we have sent many of the consignments to the overseas customer by freight, by air freight, even bearing 50% of the cost or something like that.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I don't know if
And
I answered the gentleman's question. If I have not, he can
no,
further ask for clarification.
sure. I believe that sort of answers the question that he has posed, but there will obviously be a follow-up, and I'll let you know. Uh, so moving on to one of the events that we are all looking forward to. Apart from being the former national president at IIMM, you are also the convener of Disha 2020, which is one of the largest supply chain and procurement events in India. As a platform, how does Disha address the challenges faced by the supply chain management community?
Okay. So before that, I think I should say a few words about Indian Institute of Materials Management.
Sure, sir.
Indian Institute of Materials Management is a professional body of all procurement and supply chain management professionals in the country. This institution was formed much earlier to 1956, and basically it got its name as Indian Institute of Materials Management in 1983. This is a body of professionals. We have about 10,000 plus members. It's an all India body, and we draw our members from private sector, public sector, the armed forces, and the academics.
Right.
Our main objective is to improve the skill of our professionals in the industry to take up bigger challenges. So we offer various educational programs from basically a graduate diploma in materials management to now up to a PhD in materials management in association with
Right.
various universities. So that's about education. We also do in-house trainings. We also have consultancy assignments. We also help industry with placements. And we have also taken up upon ourselves to basically conduct such programs in a MDP programs, as we would call, or a management development program. Disha is one of our main signature programs in the country. We have our national convention, which happens at one of the major cities across the country. We have various other programs like Disha, which are organized by various other branches of IIMM in the country. Now, basically, why do we do this? Here, we try to bring in experts from across the globe who would demonstrate the best practices followed in other parts of the world. So basically, Disha is basically an opportunity for us to showcase or bring to the professionals a new topic or a new way of working in the industry. And if we find more interest, then we have a lot of MDP programs that we conduct to speak a little more about them and give more knowledge to the people. So Disha, we started in 2007, where we felt Disha means direction. Yeah. And we
Yeah.
felt that we should give a direction to people, to a professional's career going forward. And we felt that in India, this profession of procurement and supply chain did not have much of respect. So we wanted our own professionals to get more respect, and that we felt would come out of knowledge upgradation and getting to know more nuances of the skill, which will help them do better in their places of work. So that's the objective we have for Disha. And that's how from 2007 to 2020, it's roughly 14 years, and we have been successfully organizing this event. So basically, I'll tell you, gig economy. A gig economy is use of externals to get your activity done. This is something that we learned during the pandemic days. So we will talk about this in this event. We will talk about e-invoicing. How can companies get their invoices passed of their vendors' supplies without a hard copy of the invoice coming to the company? If companies like Bharat Petroleum and ONGC can do it, we felt even Indian private sector companies can also do this. And basically, like I said, getting the best practices to the working platform is what we wanted to help our delegates with.
Indeed, sir. That is a laudable initiative by Disha, and I do believe that this conference will be very rewarding for many of the members of the supply chain management community.
Yeah.
So we're taking another question by Mr. Bhupendra Kumar, who is the head of logistics at IOL Chemicals and Pharmaceuticals. So this is with respect to your previous response. His question is, these are facts which he has shared about humanitarian assistance, but how much is he confident that same things are going to be continued in future?
See, it all depends. No, see, basically, let us be clear. Today, the driver's son does not want to become a driver.
Right,
Okay,
right,
we will need drivers to be there in the industry to help run the wheels of the industry. If you don't consider them as people who are respectable and who need to have services, for example, basically a driver, basically he's on the road for 4 days and 5 days and 6 days. Won't he need a place to freshen himself? He's eating on the road whatever he gets. Can't we even do offering him food in your canteen? I think these are things, I don't know what do I tell you, Vasundhara. Basically, earlier we may not have this mindset, but today, after the pandemic, I think the need to be more humanitarian has really come up. And I'm sure whatever we have done in the COVID times, companies, if they wish to do, they can do. It all depends on what the company wants to do. If the company wants to be seen itself as humanitarian, they will do. Otherwise, they will. But I'm sure I would be right in saying that many companies would follow all this even in normal times.
Let's hope that it materializes and more companies follow your path.
It will.
The
It will. I'm confident. Yeah.
Indeed, sir, your optimism is very infectious, if I may say that. So, going back to Disha 2020. So, the theme of Disha on gearing up for the next normal is quite relevant given the disarray and the uncertainty around us. So, although you've mentioned a bit in the previous question, I would still like to ask you, what will be the highlight of the event this year that can benefit the supply chain management community?
Okay. Let me tell you. Basically, the theme, as you said, you know, is supply chain management, gearing for the next normal. Okay, and
Right.
we have taken four relevant topics there: indigenization, cost optimization, risk mitigation, digitization. I think if every company focuses on these four topics, they are well prepared for the next norm. Okay,
Right.
indigenization is Atmanirbharta, looking at what you have within the country. Cost
Right.
optimization is how can you bring down cost and be competitive. Risk mitigation is how do you foresee the next pandemic coming and prepare yourself for this. And digitization is how can you digitalize your business process so that it is more dependent on basically automation rather than on people. So even if people are not in place, the activity goes on. Okay. So basically, and this time, this is for the first time, all the other dishas have been face to face. This is the first time we have
Right.
a disha which is basically on a virtual basis. And we are using a beautiful platform for the event. And so what we said is when we are already doing it, why can't we transform ourselves and look beyond? So we said this year we'll have four sessions. So in addition to the normal session on procurement, we have a focus on pharma industry, we have a focus on EPC industry, we have also a focus on public procurement. Let me start with the public procurement. Public procurement, we have lot of policy guidelines that you have to be within. We are getting the chief technical officer, or he's called the CTE, a chief technical examiner from the CVC, Chief Vigilance Commissioner's Office, who will talk about the vigilance and the guidelines. We have the GEM portal. GEM portal is something where government wants to push every big expenditure through that. So we have the CFO of the GEM portal talking about it. There is
Right.
also a restriction today that there should be maximum focus on MSME industry. So we are getting the Joint Secretary Government of India from the Ministry of Industry to talk about MSME. So, and we are also having railways, ONGC, armed forces, the biggest spenders, to come and talk about the best practices there. We have the forum of EPC, where we have talking about the challenges, digitization end to end, over dimension cargo, challenges in cargo movement, and risk management. In pharma forum, we are talking of India as a pharmacy of the world. Yeah,
Right.
we are
Right.
again. We have everybody is talking about vaccines. We have the gentleman from Serum Institute, Pune, who's talking about how do you manage a life cycle of new molecules. And then comes how do you do the warehousing part of the molecule and how do you move around the logistics of cold chain. Then basically we are also talking about contract manufacturing, sourcing out of India, what can help people source from India, etc. And of course, the main theater we have where we are talking about e-invoicing, indigenization, supplier capability building, operational excellence, warehouse and IT. requirements, and gig economy, e-procurement, and so on and so forth. So I can only tell you, Basundhara, this year's Disha with 56 speakers is going to give a huge value add to people who are going to take part in it, and at a nominal fee of 1,500 rupees plus GST for 3 days, which is paltry. Yeah.
Truly,
And
sir.
also, what we are saying is people cannot do justice to attend all the 56. So, we will, speakers, so we will also record and store this in the archives for 15 days. And people who have missed some sessions would go back and basically look at all those presentations they have missed and take the knowledge value had home. And I'm sure the industry professional would take definitely a good make good use of this opportunity and basically take home the knowledge that we want to share with them.
Definitely.
Let me again tell you today, I think before I came into this call, I think we had a total delegate of 700. And looking at the response from the industry, I'm very confident we would cross 900. And basically, for an event like this, to cross 900, I think it's a huge, basically, achievement. And where we have participants from India, from overseas. We have, out of the 55 speakers, at least 15 of them are from overseas. Basically, amongst the speakers, we have 5 CEOs of top companies. We have a CEO, we have basically, he's not a CEO, he's a vice chairman of Asian Paints, who's going to
Right.
talk about how they have achieved an inventory turn of 10. Mind you, it's a huge achievement. How Asian Paint has achieved an inventory turn of 10, and they have a cash cycle of 5 to 6 days. So there are some excellent best practices that one could hear. And I would, through your this interview, I would urge the industry professionals to please participate and make the best benefit after what is being offered.
Indeed, sir, that is very commendable, and the initiative is, of course, laudable. And I hope many more professionals in the industry, especially young minds who have newly entered the industry, take note of this and participate in the event. I have no doubts that it will be a very august gathering as well as a very enriching session for all of them. And I wish you all the very best for the event in the days to come.
Thank you.
Sir, as we head towards the end of today's session, I would like to reiterate that it was indeed a very knowledgeable experience for me as well. I would like to thank you for today's interaction. As we embark on a new journey that is very new to this millennium, I would like to I take with us the insights that you've provided in weathering any storm or obstacle ahead in gearing up for the next normal. I hope this conversation will benefit a lot of our viewers, especially people associated with the industry, freight forwarder, supply chain management community, and people who have been curious to know what the future holds for this prized industry. Thank you, sir, for taking the time out of your busy schedule for this interaction today. I look forward to more such enlightening discussions with you, and I wish you all the very best for Disha 2020. Thank you to the viewers as well for the participation and their questions. And thank you for being a part of this discussion. With this, we take
Let
our
me
leave.
tell you, Vasundhara, the pleasure has been equally mine. And I would be
Sir.
happy to address any other questions, even if later, if they are coming to me from the professionals in the industry. Thank you very much.
Sure, sir. Thank you very much. And I hope all the professionals have also taken note of this. You can also approach Mr. Iyer, sir, on his LinkedIn profile for any further questions. Thank you, sir, for the entire interaction, and I hope you have a beautiful day ahead.
Thank you. Same to you.